Another wonderful podcast. This is going to be super interesting because we have a guest who's going to be talking about a very different topic for the first time on my channel on futsal. So I'm delighted to have Mr. Kaka Khalaf, who is a futsal coach, specialist futsal coach, futsal level 2 qualified from Taiwan. He's also got an AFC B, so he's going to give us a good perspective on futsal and football. And they're going to be I've really made a few interesting questions for him. So welcome, Kaka. Thank you for giving your time on this podcast.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for reaching out. First of all, I'm very delighted that when you first contact me about these podcasts. So I'm very happy to share with my experience in futsal, maybe a little bit with football as well, and especially I think in the East Asian region. So as you know, Asian is a very big continent with many different members and a lot of different football culture. Yeah. So I know you have listed the questions, but if you don't mind, you can also remind me sometimes if you know any things that I can update to share with you. I'll be happy to do. So
We'll
again, thanks for having
Delighted. We'll keep it spontaneous. I'm sure you're going to add massive value to this podcast. So
me.
now
Sure, sure.
starting off, let's just try and understand more about you. So you've been the head coach of YTFC in Taipei, Taiwan, first division. You've also currently, if I'm not mistaken, you're the under 18 head coach of MFA in Taipei, Taiwan. So
Type
what's
yes,
your
correct.
journey been like?
Yeah, sure. So Ryan, as you know, I'm doing futsal and football. I used to work for our football federation, which is the CTFA, Chinese Taipei. So I was very lucky that I had the chance to work with many good coaches, coaches from Brazil, coaches from England. So
Yeah.
I was with our futsal national team during the 2018, no, I think it was 2020 qualification. So I was in the team, helping the team, not really with the coaching side, but with a lot of administrative and also, everything that can help the team that I'm involved with. So then later on, Taipei, as you call Chinese Taipei, so then we established our futsal league. That is the top division in Taipei. So this is the third season. So then I had a team that is called YTFC in Taipei that we enroll with this competition. It was very good because we had a chance to play, we have some national team players with us, and then we play like pretty much national wide. So the South, the East, center of Taiwan, we played. So this season, the 2022 to 2023, we end up the second place of the league. So it's something very encouraged for us. And then, as you see from my resume, I'm also working with MFA. So the MFA Academy has been in Taiwan for about 20 years. This will mark the 20 years of the club. So we played in some tournaments. Perhaps you know about the JSSL. It's in Singapore.
Okay.
So we play some of these kind of international tournaments, but we are mainly focused with the youth development. So we have teams up until U18s. So I'm in charge of the U18s, which is the age group of U18s, and then with some U10s, U12. So I think it's very interesting that later on we can share about the impact between futsal and football. Futsal is a game about finding space, be able to escape from the pressure. So this will help the kids when they're at a very young age to develop their skills, their game understanding. It's something very, very helpful. I find it. Yeah.
You've definitely had some very good exposure through the sport, some very great experiences and success as well. I'm
Thank you.
inquisitive to know. So usually,
Mm.
it's not usual for footballers or football coaches to go into futsal. So what
Right.
sparked that kind of interest?
I think the thing is, if you look at world football, okay, so let's say about Brazil, I know that a lot of clubs like Santos, Sao Paulo, when players are up until U13, they are compulsory to play futsal. So I think in Brazil, they believe in this methodology that, with playing futsal, you have a lot of touches with the ball, you build up your technique, your technique and skills. So then I think the same thing in Taipei is, to be honest, that the majority will be playing football. But the reason that I play futsal is that we used to host the World Cup, futsal World Cup. I think it was in the 2004.
Yeah.
So we have some really good players like Falcao. If you see from YouTube, you see Falcao, Schumacher. Those players that they play here. So I think that was a very eye-opening experience for me. So then that was a totally new kind of dimension of playing in such a tiny space with such a magical skill level. So I think that was a time that I have this huge interest about futsal. So then me myself, I used to play a bit futsal and of course mainly football. But then I also spent some time study.
Yeah.
So then I also find out that because consider that in Taipei we don't have much, the space for training pitches are very limited. So very often time we have players that train in a very like let's say half like maybe we have to split the pitch into half, so we use this kind of space to produce the players with their technique and game understanding. So that is why I adapt a bit of futsal into this football kind of development, and then I find it very very useful for the players.
So later, as we progress in this podcast, we'll actually go into more detail of how we can integrate it. And by the way,
Sure.
Falcao has been to India to play a futsal tournament,
Right. Yes.
Premier
Yes.
Futsal. Yes, so yes, we are aware of Falcao. Now, I would also say just consider that we are all laymen over here. So can
Right.
just for the ones who don't know, can you tell us some major differences between football and futsal?
Yeah, I think in football you play in like let's say minimum 100 times 80 dimension of the pitch. Futsal completely different. We play 40 times 20, and then we don't have throw in. You used to have throw in, but now there's no throw in anymore. And then you're only allowed to pass back to the goalie once in the game, unless the opponent touches the ball, stuff like this. And then in futsal, as it's a very limited space, so we emphasize a lot on your soul control. Yeah, I think in Spanish they call it pisada. So the techniques completely different. And in futsal, yeah, of course we still have some like crosses, but most of the time the ball will be on the ground, and teams have to be playing with very different formations. Like
Yeah.
the most basic one, you have 2-2, 3-1, 4-0, and actually those can actually evolve with football if it comes to with the idea of playing with pivot. That is something very linked together in futsal and football.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and of course, futsal, you mainly be playing indoor. So it's also very different. You don't have the condition of the wind, not even the rain. And then we have timeout in each half. So every timeout is very, very useful for the team to reshape, to talk about the tactics. And of course, we have unlimited subs. So that is very, very different than football at some
But
point. Yeah.
such an exciting sport, such a fast-paced sport. Yes.
Yes,
And
it is. And I think the most important thing is that you can see a lot of goals from
yes,
futsal. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's the best. That's the best
Mm.
part.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
can we see futsal's influence in the playing style of any football teams at all?
Yeah, I think a very obviously you see like Barcelona, the way that they play tiki-taka. So we know that not many clubs they have they both have football and futsal. So I was in Portugal, I think that was before COVID. We went to Lisbon.
Mm.
So we had a chance to visit Benfica. So Benfica is very well known with their football team, but as well with their futsal. So we had a chance to actually watch one of their training session. And then I think Portugal is a country that they have not much population, but when as soon as you landed in Portugal, you will feel that very very strong football DNA. So
Mm.
as well as futsal. So over there you can see girls playing futsal, young age playing futsal, and we actually travel around Portugal to play. It was a training camp, so every different region they have a futsal club. So it's very vivid. So I think that is yeah. I think futsal also help us to experience the
Right.
exposure of different culture. Yeah.
So mainly Barcelona and Benfica is what
Yeah.
you believe. Yeah.
Barcelona, Benfica, yeah, I would say maybe these two teams, yeah.
Yep.
And Sporting, of course, yeah.
Right. And which countries have successfully integrated football and futsal?
I would say probably you can see Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil, very obviously they have a strong influence. And then I think some parts of Southern Europe, like maybe Spain, Portugal. I know that now in England and Germany, they're slowly trying to build up futsal, and as well for France. I think France they did very well in the Euro futsal Euro, the last edition. So I think a lot of countries they start to realize, they start to recognize futsal as a very important role in terms of football development,
Yeah, absolutely.
players development.
Yes, and is there a particular type or style of player you require to who can play futsal?
Well, actually, I think football, futsal the same. You need players to understand the game very well.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really need to be technique, skill, but it's more about understanding what to do in different moments. So you need to have quick thinker. So I think futsal, the best part is, you play in a tiny space under the pressure. So players need to think quick. And then the principle of both sports, to be very honest, from my understanding, is very similar. You have the offense, defense principle. So again, you need to understand when, why, what to do in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely I agree with that. Now, I'm a futsal level one certified coach, but I'm
Oh,
still
nice.
nowhere near being competent to really teach the sport, and I understand the importance completely.
Great, great.
I try and integrate it wherever I can. So, for example, in India, you don't really have too many futsal courts available. So basically, it's more
Mm,
of taking a basketball pitch and playing on that. Or so
right, right.
in my training sessions, I use a futsal ball during the small-sided games just to try and make an effect that way. Now, according to you, if you had to advise coaches, because of course this works, I find the benefit because especially if you don't like to hoof it up in the air, if you like quick possession based football on the ground, this works really well. And you can't really boot a futsal ball too fast. So that's my way of trying to integrate futsal into my football sessions. How would you advise coaches to how can they integrate futsal in football?
I think the best part about futsal that I can put into football would be the counter attack. So in futsal, you have a lot of overload kind of drills. Let's say 3 against 2, um, uh, equal numbers, 3 against 3. It's always in a counterattack situation. So I think futsal can help players to understand the importance and the moment of the transition, offensive, defensively transition. So I think that will actually help a lot for the players. Yeah.
And in a training session, so if you had to advise coaches who may not have the
Mm.
luxury of a futsal pitch, court,
Right,
sorry,
right, right.
um, how can they integrate? How can they really get futsal to be a part of their football training session specifically?
To be very fair with you, because I personally visit like Malaysia, Thailand, I've watched a bit of their football culture as well, futsal. So I think futsal is a sport that comes from the street. So like in Brazil, they play they go La Rua, like on the streets, and then in Thailand, some they even play just in basketball court. So I don't really think that the size of the pitch matters, but of course at some point yes. But I think the thing is that futsal can help players to adapt very quickly in different situations. So if you're asking me how do we put this into football, I think um, first of all, you have to understand your principle, your philosophy about trainings, and then you have to design the things that are very suitable, that can be adapt for your players. And then it can be a very simple 2 versus 2. It can be 2 versus 1. Really depends on what you want to try to work on with the players. But definitely, I think I would reckon that you must understand the principle very well.
Yeah.
It will help you a lot to design the drills and the sessions.
100%. And for coaches, what would you tell them? How would you explain to them why futsal is beneficial to footballers?
This is a very, very good question because I was very lucky enough to know some coaches in Asia, even in Europe. So I know this coach, his name is called Sergio Gargelli. He's an Italian coach, he used to work for the China national team. And now he's actually the Finland futsal national head coach. So sometimes we had discussion, we asked about this. So I think, let's say for now, Manchester United. So they play very intensively, pressing, regaining the ball, and they always look for the pivot to
Yeah.
serve. So this is very similar to what is happening in futsal, because when the opponent has the ball, you need to apply high press,
Yeah.
regain the ball, look for your overloads, supporting players, and then you try to play. Obviously, you play with the pivot, either to attack or either to set up for your teammate to play. So I think from world football, when you see early days of Barcelona style, now Man City, at that point you can see the similarity about both sports together. So yeah, definitely is very helpful.
And for the players listening, who are some of futsal's best players so that they can just do a Google search and a YouTube search?
Ooh, I'm sure I know this better than me and everybody else. R9, Ronaldo. You have Ronaldinho back in the days. You have Neymar now. Sadly, he's injured. And then a lot of those Brazilian players, they have this futsal background
Yeah.
deep inside their football career. So I would say the Brazilian players, they definitely can see the shadow from them of
And
futsal.
and what about from the professional futsal players like Falcao and all these guys?
Yeah, I think Falcao, he actually tried to play football when he was in Sao Paulo. I think he played like maybe 2 seasons. I'm not sure if he's very successful, but he tried. So at some point it actually shows that there's a chance,
Yeah.
like regardless small futsal, small ball or to football. And I think in France there's in Monaco there's a player, I forgot, anyway, there's a player from Monaco. He used to play for the French futsal national team, and he made it to play for Monaco, the or maybe Nice. So one of each team he used to play for, and then it shows that the impact that he has in the game. So yeah,
It,
I think
it
obviously you can see that. Yeah.
it's clear that futsal can really train the flair of a player, the creativity, and basically make a player much more entertaining. Yes. So
Yes, correct.
now following on that, do you think football clubs should make their youth teams play futsal, and if so, how often?
Yeah, I think it really depends. I recently read an article about Juventus. They're
Yeah.
they're also trying to invest in futsal with their team. So we know Juventus, they have men's. I think now even with women's trying to do futsal. So I think just like football, you need to train the better, the more, the best. So every day, but
Yeah.
like in a regular kind of training schedule, we code it maybe the periodization, microcycle. You do probably like maybe 4 to 5 times a week, plus a game in the weekends, and then I think also because in futsal you also require a lot of fitness because a lot of time you're doing high volume of and anaerobic
Yeah.
movement and stuff. So fitness is something that you definitely need to consider it about, and then those you need to monitor
Hmm.
with continuous of sessions and numbers. So
Right.
yeah, definitely 4 to 5 times a week.
4 to 5 times. We can also, if it's a football club who's not who are mainly focused on running football sessions, how can
Yes.
they introduce futsal?
I think, like I said before, the most obvious sessions that you can find a similarity would be the overloads. Like I said, the counterattack sessions, and then the small-sided games.
Right.
Because in modern days football, even like you can access on YouTube, you see like Man United, no, sorry, City, Bayern, Barcelona.
Mhm.
They used to when they play small sided game, they normally limited the numbers to like maybe 5 against 5, 6 against 6, and that is totally it's very similar to what futsal is doing.
Yeah.
And then they try to limit the space of the pitch with some condition. So emphasizing on attacking the
Correct.
wings, protecting the center. So I think in this you can easily adapt to football, no problem.
100%. Now, see, futsal isn't as big as football, and a lot of nations have to really do a lot to develop. So, what are your ideas? What can national federations do to try and promote more futsal in their country?
From my experience, obviously, I think different federations they have different plans,
Yeah.
and even FIFA, even AFC, they're trying to do a lot of things like hosting the World Cup in different nations, trying to build up the attention, giving the funds.
Yeah.
Uh, I think again, it really depends on member association or even your local federation. What is your plan with? But I think if you can start with grassroots,
Yeah.
you give them a certain exposure to futsal, to let them understand a different way of conducting. different way of how do you say that? The touches, the different way of approach with the ball.
Yeah.
That'll be very, very interested for the players. I think I definitely recommend futsal to younger age because we all know that futsal it's a lower bounce
Yes.
ball. So for kids, it's much easier to control. They might have more fun, more confident, more joy when they're dribbling around.
Yeah.
And then from that point of view, I think that can help the kids to grow their interest with futsal.
So
Right.
at a very micro level, so how I plan to introduce futsal at my club is to basically take them once a month, because after all I only get 3 days a week,
Mm,
so 3 hours a
mm.
week with each age group. So it's basically once a month, book a basketball court that has goalposts, use a
Oh,
futsal.
that'll be good.
And what do you think of an idea like that?
I think that'll be perfect as long as you make sure that the it's a safe environment. We
Yes.
always want to consider safe for the kids, and then secondly, proper instructions about what to do, and then yeah, I think like I said, I think futsal the best part is you don't need to have a big space.
Yeah.
With limited space, rotation, just let them play, wave games and stuff.
Yeah.
It can create a lot of joys. Yeah.
Right. And I'd be interested to know, what does a typical futsal training session look like? Training session, right from the warm up till the end.
I have a little bit of a video, but I think I will share with you privately.
Yeah.
And then a typical futsal session is not very different than football in terms of the training hours. Normally, I'll take 2 hours per sessions, and then you start with warm up. But of course, the idea of the how do you call that? The main principle, no, main topic of
Mhm.
the session. It has to be either be on offense or defense, but then you include with the transition part.
Yeah.
So normally I will do probably for a technique because it depends on the age group that you're doing with. But obviously you have to start with the technique and then with the game. Let's say the functional trainings. It depends on what is your objective with the team. So but I think every sessions you need to consider with your fitness level
Yeah.
because that really affect of the quality of the session. Even though with a young age, it will affect. Yeah.
And from a coach education standpoint, how do coach education courses differ in futsal and football?
Well, in futsal in AFC, we have the level one. Obviously, you have it too. Then there's level two, level three, and then I was very lucky to know some instructors, and I also know some coaches. They work for like elite level in Asia. So I know they're all trying to promote the sport and they're trying to equivalent the level between Asia and Europe. I think that is also something that is very interesting to talk about because in Asia we know that you have team like Japan,
Yeah.
team like Iran, and then even like Uzbekistan, Thailand. The level are not so different than some teams in Europe because as I know, I think Iran they were playing a game to yesterday. They have two games with Russia. So the first game that they won, the second game they lost, but to win against Russia. And
Yeah.
I think Iran they also beat Brazil. I think uh in the one before the World Cup. So at some point it proves that what AFC are trying to do is is positive.
Right.
Level has been bringing up. So yeah, I think that is something that people should know. Yeah.
100%. And now, historically, from my research, futsal was
Hmm.
created, or rather, made by Uruguay. So,
Right. Yeah.
do you have any idea how are they doing in futsal? What's the culture like over
Uh, to be yeah, like we know Uruguay they initiate the first World Cup, football World Cup,
there?
and then they also initiate futsal. So I think, but like if we talk about futsal, we always associate with like team like Argentina. To be honest, Argentina has been doing really great from the past two World Cup, and then Brazil, obviously, and then we will talk about the countries like in Europe. So like in Portugal, in Spain, and then before you have Italy.
Yeah.
So I would say Yeah, Uruguay, they started the sport, and then I've been checking into some studies and research. However, I think the best teams will still be like maybe like Brazil, Argentina, those countries that I mentioned before.
And who are the big ones in Asia?
Wow, what a good question. What a good question. I think for now, wow. You always have the top two countries like Japan, Iran, they've been fighting each other for the past nobody knows how long. It has been there for a long time.
Right.
But because personally I've been to both countries because we went to Iran to watch. We
Right.
went there for the U20 Asian Cup. So the level in Iran is very high. We went to there's a club called Gun, so
Right.
we went there to watch their training facilities. It was very good. But then as well, we went to Japan. So we went to Osaka, and then I think the thing with futsal again, it's a part of the culture
Yes.
because Iran they started everything probably like 50 years ago. They used to have good Brazilian coaches coming to Iran to teach them the real futsal from Brazil.
Right.
Same thing in Japan, they bring some coaches from, they have a professional athlete and then they bring coaches from Brazil, even like import, to teach, to help the team. So that would definitely help the national team at the end to build up, to be more competitive. So I think in Asia, no doubt, will be these two
Yeah.
for the next couple couple years.
What's surprising, of course, Iran are doing amazing there. As of today, I checked their world number six. And
Yeah,
what's even more surprising is that Kazakhstan are just below them at world number seven. So,
right, right.
can you enlighten us? Like, where did Kazakhstan, I mean, all due respect to them, but how are they, how did they reach the level they're at?
Uh, well, Kazakhstan is very unique,
Yeah.
in terms of their history, in terms of their sports kind of development, because they have some partnership with like probably Russia,
Right.
countries around. So in Kazakhstan, I think the best thing that they have is Almaty. So, oh no, Kairat, yeah, Kairat. So in Kairat, they have import players, obviously, and then as far as I know, they always have like friendly games, a competition in that part of Europe. So
Right.
that's why they can keep their standards high.
Brilliant. It's good to see
Yeah,
that there are two Asian countries in the top 10. So
yeah,
this
yeah.
was, yeah, I think this was brilliant. You've really explained what futsal is about and how it's such a special sport. But I want to just get two more questions in for you just before you leave.
Please, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
so what's your advice to futsal coaches all around the world?
I think we need to work together to share our knowledge
Right.
and to promote the sport together because me myself like I said I'm like in the between. I'm in charge with futsal, but I'm also doing football training. So I always want to promote people to let
Yes.
them understand from each trainings, there's a shadow from what I believe in futsal that can help them in football.
Right.
So then with these people, they will, they might have a bit interest. They want to know more about futsal. Yeah. But obviously you have people that they don't really show their interest
Right.
in this. And but you don't need to force them, It's just it's a way of belief. If you believe this can help,
Yeah.
it's no harm to know.
Right.
And then I think the second thing is, I think what coaches we can do is that we can try, we can always try something new and that we believe that can help the kids. So, for example, like in Taipei, we have a lot of seven-a-side, eight-a-side game, but as
Right.
well as a lot of futsal games because, some clubs they don't have enough players. So then they, like the first season, the first few years they would play in futsal and then see how it goes and then they progress to a bigger pitch, more players. So like I said, this is all we're all trying to help with the development of the players.
The key takeaway is that we are all united in this because futsal is a sport
Yeah,
that requires so much more promotion than what it gets right now. So yeah, that was
right, right.
brilliant. What are your future plans individually?
I think for myself, I have my ambition. I have my plan for for coaching. Obviously, I want to go to a higher level, and then obviously I want to go to a very more competitive environment. And then, so for now, what we can do as a coach, obviously, every day we have to learn because you stop learning, you stop teaching. So we learn everything, attending some courses, lecture to, let's say, like mentors and stuff. And then obviously we have to improvise our sessions. And then, yeah, I believe whenever you attend a certain things, there will be a door open for you to go to the next challenge. Yeah.
100%. We wish you good luck with your endeavors. This was a fantastic podcast. And yes, thank you for your time. Thank you for taking time out.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. If anything you're interested to know that we can share about, let me know. You always have my contact, so yeah, we can keep in touch.
For sure. We'll have your email ID displayed on the description of the video.
Oh, sweet,
Your
sweet,
time.
sweet.